Hello Internet, Joe Hey here. I have just finished playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and in this video I'm going to share an overall review of the game. Let's dive into what makes it stand out, exploring both the highs and some of the lows. Ready? Let's go. A spoiler warning: if you haven't played the game, don't watch this video if you don't want to get spoiled, but if you have played the game, please continue watching. First, because I haven't done any gaming videos to my channel yet, a couple of things about my background on gaming and on Final Fantasy. I consider myself like one of the biggest FF fans out there. I have experienced the series extensively since the 90s, playing titles from Final Fantasy IV, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15, almost through, and 16. And some of these games I have played multiple times through. And of course, Final Fantasy Remake, both on normal and hard modes, Yuffie's DLC, and now Rebirth. And some other FF related games. Okay, and within last couple of months, I have dedicated about 100 hours to playing Rebirth. Like we all, I also have been eagerly anticipating Rebirth for years now, having followed its development closely. This included watching like every trailer and interview and absorbing all gameplay and impression videos even before its release. The hype was real, especially in the last months leading up to Rebirth's launch. And when Rebirth finally launched, it took me about a month to deeply engage with its core. I'm trying to keep this introduction short, so in a nutshell, Rebirth is the best Final Fantasy game we have had in a long time. The game definitely has its pros and cons, and we'll talk about some of those in a bit, but overall, Rebirth takes everything a step beyond. It starts right where Remake left off, continuing the journey beyond Midgar with enhanced gameplay and a richer narrative. Rebirth is a worthy successor to Remake, but also an exceptional entry in Final Fantasy series. So, let's dive in. Remember also to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. So let's first discuss about the world. In the game there is a lot happening across various iconic areas of Final Fantasy VII. We start our adventure at the grasslands in the village of Calm and journey through a series of nostalgic locations like Mithril Mines, Junon, Costa del Sol, Gold Saucer and Nibelheim, and so on. Those are great. There is one area that I didn't like so much, and yes, it's Gongaga area, but I will talk about that in another video. Although Rebirth is marketed as an open world game, but it feels, and it is, more like a collection of large interconnected regions rather than a seamless open world like Elden Ring or Horizon Forbidden West. Nonetheless, these areas are expansive and big and beautifully crafted, offering plenty to explore and do. The graphical quality of each area is just stunning, bringing these environments to life. And each area has, for example, its own unique chocobo for traveling within that region. I collected each area's unique chocobos and I really enjoyed how fun it was to travel with the chocobos. While I think it would have been really nice to use the chocobos to travel between areas, their use is restricted, as I said, to their respective regions in Rebirth. So you can't travel with, for example, Grasslands chocobo to Junon area, because you can only travel with a chocobo within the specific region, okay? But yeah, chocobos aside, each area is filled with tasks and activities. And most of these activities are orchestrated by Chadley, a character from the remake, who plays actually a significant role in this game as well. Actually, I think Chadley is the real main character of this story. Like, no other character has as much dialogue in this game as Chadley. And Chadley kinda controls the so-called main characters strongly, giving them all kinds of thoughts, tasks, and stories during the game. Chadley can also interrupt the gameplay any times he wants. No matter what's happening in the game, he can always call Cloud, and Cloud answers every single time. I feel that Chadley is even worse puppet master than Sephiroth. I think Chadley will be the final boss of the whole game series. Chadley is the real creator of Final Fantasy VII. Okay, jokes aside, Chadley is kind of guy who follows you from one area to another, and he provides some tasks and guides you through each location. He provides also some information about each area, and he calls you many times. And yes, this is the aspect of Chadley that it can also start to feel like the game is holding your hand too much, like guiding you too closely. Compared to games like Elden Ring or Horizon Forbidden West, where you are free to explore without much of hand-holding. So Rebirth can sometimes feel a bit too structured. You are often reminded of how much you still need to accomplish in each area, which can make the game feel more like a series of tasks rather than like a thrill of exploration just for fun. Despite this, the world of Rebirth is undeniably impressive. Luckily, most of the side quests feel more fun and meaningful in this game compared to, say, the remake. As you go through the side quests, you gain meaningful rewards that actually impact your gameplay, like important materia or items. That was, I think, really nice. Now if we shift to the topic of music, it's just phenomenal. Like, the music in this game is on another level that you just don't typically see in games. Mitsuko Suzuki and Masashi Hamauzu's compositions and arrangements in Rebirth, and of course covers of the original FF7 songs, are incredibly great. The music in Rebirth and also in Remake is perfect. Since playing through Rebirth, I haven't listened to any other music than Rebirth's music. And this happened me also when I finished Remake 4 years ago. These tracks you hear in the game, they are like 10 out of 5 for me. And that's really like all I have to say about the music. Moving on to the characters in Rebirth. They are wonderfully crafted. The main cast, like Cloud, Tifa, Barret, Red, and Cait Sith, to name a few, are exactly as I have imagined them. We also get to see some of the late game characters like Sid and Vincent Valentine, but they aren't playable characters in Rebirth yet. The spirit of these characters is captured perfectly, I think. And Rebirth takes these characters even further compared to Remake, enriching their stories and deepening our understanding of their backgrounds. For example, in the Corel area, we visit Barret's home, and in Cosmo Canyon, we explore Red's backgrounds. This helps deepen the characters we have become familiar with from the remake. And one of my favorite surprises was actually Cait Sith, who was executed incredibly well in Rebirth. Watching Cait Sith in action was an absolute delight, and I always just smiled when watching him do anything.
It feels so good to do good. Alright lads, enjoy your stay.
But of course my all-time top favorite is gonna always be Tifa. However, there's one aspect of an important character's portrayal that got me thinking. And let's talk a bit about Red. And this will be, of course, a spoiler thing, so if you haven't played the game, you can skip this part of the video. In the beginning of the game, Red is as we have come to know him from the remake. And I mean, he has had that epic voice, like if you have heard him talking anything, like an old wise storyteller voice.
He's here, isn't he? It may look that way, but in reality, it's barely hanging on.
And I don't know how else to describe it, but yet, as we arrive to the Cosmo Canyon, Red starts speaking with a teeny voice, like with a voice from his teenage years.
Sure have.
And after Cosmo Canyon, he still speaks with that teeny voice, which in my opinion really takes away from his character's impact. And while I somewhat understand why this was done for the story, part of me just felt that I wanted him to return to his old self, to speak with the deep, wise voice I have grown used to hearing. But that's really my only major complaint about the portrayal of the main characters. Okay? There are also some side characters in the game whose significance and roles I could discuss a bit more in another video, some of which I didn't find not so much impressive. But like I said, overall the main characters stay very true to the original and are beautifully executed in this game. They really drive the story forward and enhance the overall quality of the game. Next, few words about the combat system. It has also been advanced from what we saw in Remake. Now it includes, for example, new types of synergy attacks, which are coordinated attacks between characters. Like you can perform special strikes with Cloud or Tifa or between Cloud and Barret or among other different characters. And these are very powerful attacks and they can have a significant impact on the enemies. The combat system is quite versatile. It allows you to invent your own fighting style. You can stick to certain moves throughout the game or adapt as you go along, as long as you survive, of course. Despite its versatility, the system remains straightforward and really enjoyable. Fighting against bosses and figuring out how to beat them, it has been all executed very well in this game. And I just really enjoyed the combat a lot. And the combat is also one of the driving forces, strengths and best aspects of the game. Also, the game still includes the familiar materia system from original Final Fantasy VII and from the remake. You can link found or purchased materia to your weapons and armor, which also is really fun. As you collect more materia throughout the game, it becomes quite interesting and rewarding to think about good combinations to enhance your combat and affect your character's abilities. I believe the battle and materia systems in both Remake and Rebirth is among the best innovations Square Enix has ever developed. Additionally, there is a new feature. It's the item transmuter that lets you craft new items and develop your armor and so forth. I used the item transmuter a lot during the game to create all sorts of items. In short, it is a really nice new feature. Let's talk a little about the minigames. The developers assured that there would be a lot to explore, including various minigames, along with character-specific story segments that almost feels, to me at least, like minigames themselves. First off, the presence of numerous minigames ensures that there is something for every type of player, which is definitely a positive thing. Minigames like Fort Condor, the new card game, Queen's Blood, and Chocobo Racing were enjoyable and felt meaningful, and these minigames were clear highlights for me. However, the sheer number of minigames can sometimes feel overwhelming, because you might feel compelled to spend time on each one to get the full experience, which can be exhausting. And if you decide to skip some of the minigames, you might miss out on important aspects of the game or valuable items. This can make the gaming experience feel a bit fragmented because some minigames seems essential while other minigames feel somewhat trivial and could distract from the main storyline. But of course you can always play a second playthrough of Rebirth and concentrate on some minigames which you didn't focus on in your first playthrough. That's definitely possible and adds replay value to the experience. Despite of these little downsides, it's worth mentioning again the well-crafted minigames that do stand out, like the Queen's Blood and so on. Those minigames add value and enjoyment to the overall gaming experience. So then, let's move to talk a bit about the story. Mostly the narrative is clear, good and engaging. You can follow it easily and really enjoy it, which makes it entertaining and definitely not bad. However, to the introduction of multiverse elements and other realities and, for example, trying to incorporate characters like Zack into the narrative and things like that, it sometimes causes a bit of confusion for me. I mean, these moments when I'm not quite sure what to think or feel or even what's going on in the story. There are a few scenes that are, let's say, hard to keep up with, and when I, for example, finished the game, I had to watch several ending explained videos to clarify what happened, for example, at the end of the game. And I think it's a bit of a downside if the player can't keep up with the story and if the player has to rely on multiple videos to understand what's happening. Because that can make it difficult to stay engaged in the story on an emotional level. And that is which diminishes or reduces the impact of the story. And yes, this is just me speaking, so if you understand what's happening in the game perfectly, well, good for you then. However, if I could wish for something, it would be a bit more clarity towards the end to keep players better on track with what's happening in the story. Because right now I feel that there are more questions in the air than answers provided by the story. And I hope at least most of these questions will be addressed in the third part. But I also think like this, even though the story is sometimes not so clear or whatsoever, they are telling the story as well as they can in this new context that they are trying to add new things to the game story. So in that context, I think the narrative is beautifully told, or at least as beautifully as it can be. It is at least very nice and entertaining to watch. And in overall, the enjoyment of this game also depends a lot on how you approach it. Like if you have played the original game and you know what happens in the story, you essentially know where the story is headed. But what's interesting is seeing what new twists and methods they use and add into it to tell the story, while still maintaining the core of the original narrative. If you are already biased against the game because they have changed it or added new elements to the story, then you probably won't enjoy it as much. But if you approach it with an open attitude, like I try to, you can really like the remake and Rebirth, and hopefully the third part as well. Just see what they can put together. And it's been mostly very well done. I personally plan to play all the games in the remake series along with all the DLCs. For me, it's very nice to return to the world of FF7 in this way. I mean with great graphics and beautifully crafted music, gameplay mechanics, battle systems, and well-made main characters. In short, this game is about 90% fantastic, but then there is that 10% which makes you wonder why they did certain things the way they did. But once you get used to those issues and kinda sweep them under the rug, you can really enjoy this game. The game is full of excellent content and it really shines the further you play. It also manages to surprise with some truly great and fun moments. And as I said, it's some of the best Final Fantasy games we have gotten in years. And if you have played the remake, this won't disappoint. Alright, those were my thoughts on Rebirth as a longtime fan. And those were the things that just came first to my mind when I thought the things that I want to say about this game. And this video could easily have been twice as long, but I'm trying to keep things concise, so we'll wrap it up here. And hey, I mentioned that the game is like 90% fantastic and 10% less so fantastic. And I'm actually working on kind of deep dive video about that 10%, like covering aspects I think could be improved in Rebirth and my hopes for the third part of the series. So if that kind of videos sounds interesting, make sure to follow the channel. I'd love to create more game-related videos. So feel free to leave a comment below about your thoughts on Rebirth, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm Joe Hey, and I'll see you in the next video. Be epic.